Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Laps Down podcast. However, this is not a typical podcast episode. We're doing something new, something exciting, and it's a movie club, movie review. We're like Letterboxd, but in people form.
We are Letterboxd.
We are Letterboxd. Do you like those videos that they do with celebrities? Or they're like, what are your top three in Letterboxd? I feel like it's all performative. Like, they're not being honest about what their favorites are. They want to be cool.
It's performative, and also, like, it would stress me out so much if someone put a microphone in my face and go, all right, top four, because a knee-jerk reaction would be like, Cat in the Hat, The Lorax.
And they'd be like, okay, so this is not a serious person. Anyways,
right.
They'd be like, so this is a young child. Good to know. I know what would be in my top four, though, if they asked, and it would be the movie that we're reviewing right now. Is it just called American Thunder? Or is it NASCAR to Le Mans American Thunder?
I think it's American Thunder NASCAR to Le Mans. And it is a documentary. It's not a movie.
It's a movie.
It felt like a movie. I was like, I don't know who wrote this, but they did a really good job. And then it's just like, Jim France wrote this.
You be the right guy. I be the best friend. Jim France. He had that in his head. He's like, let's make a movie.
Exactly.
Okay. She's not helping me out today, guys. My jokes are just gonna not land sometimes. No sympathy laughs from MJ. So I figured we could start off by telling folks what this documentary was all about, what was the premise of it, and maybe we can give them a little background to how this amazing collab came about. In 2023, NASCAR, like you said, needed something big. They needed a stunt. They were feeling down. They needed some marketing. And they wanted to try something they had tried very, very long time ago, which was running a NASCAR in Le Mans. It didn't end very well last time. And they were like, this time, can we at least finish the race? They literally took a NASCAR stock car, whatever, and they got a special exemption that it's called Garage 56, and it's through Le Mans. It's like a program that allows cars outside of the like normal vehicles that you see in Le Mans to compete. I don't know. It sounded like it was, a big dream for NASCAR. I don't know. You made it sound like it might have been more of like a marketing thing. They had a documentary all set up, so maybe it was more for the marketing. But I kind of believed them when it was like the France family, like this is a dream of theirs to finish Le Mans. Do you believe that it was like a long-standing dream?
I mean, it probably was. Jim France was talking about how his dad participated back in the olden days. And yeah, I mean, I believe that much. But I do also believe that this was probably a really good promotional situation for NASCAR, especially coming like right out of COVID and being like, guess what? We're going international. We're going to Le Mans. And it worked, frankly.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a bit of a gamble because if it didn't work, it would have just actually been embarrassing and done the opposite.
That's true. One of the things I noted at the beginning is they were like, that they kind of like emphasized that. They were like, no, if we're going to do it, we have to do it right because we're doing something different on an international stage in front of all these people who already kind of regard NASCAR as like Days of Thunder and Ricky Bobby, which I appreciated that they pointed that out, that's probably not the best recognition for NASCAR. And so they're like, we simply don't have any room for error if we're going to do this.
And this was kind of highlighted at the beginning. They have like some, fancy European motorsport types being like little talking heads in this documentary. And they have this guy who's like an announcer for Le Mans. And he says, yeah, bringing a cup car to Le Mans is like bringing a knife to a gunfight. And all I could think of was that one DTS Will Buxton quote. And he's like, it's like bringing a spoon to a gunfight. But I don't know. It kind of just like shows the like disregard a lot of people had for this idea of like, yeah, okay, they're going to make it 3 hours because that's how long a cup car can last.
Yeah, and can it even turn right is what my first question would have been.
I don't know. We're watching the Mexico GP, or not Mexico GP, the Mexico NASCAR race as we're kind of like filming this weekend, and I'm starting to question if it can turn right.
I'm just not sure. I think it just like goes so far left that eventually somehow it turns right. It's like, I don't know how it works.
You have to circle every turn.
And frankly, they did. So
yeah. So they start the documentary off by kind of introducing us to the players that are going to be doing this. They kind of emphasize that you needed the right drivers to pull this sort of thing off. And the first person that seemed to be signed on to this project was somebody that I'm going to be honest, I'd never heard of. From now on, though, I am at every endurance race or whatever looking for his name on the roster to see if he's going to be participating, because I am now in love with him. It's Mike Rockenfeller. He was a previous winner of Le Mans, previous winner of like 24 Hours at Daytona. He's very European, and he makes it sound like he was just hanging out in Charlotte and was available, which I'm like, would love to know what you were doing there.
He was. He genuinely was. He ran 2 cup races. He did Watkins Glen, and then he did the Roval.
Oh.
Just before. So he did actually run a couple cup races, and so I think that's kind of why they were like, we got this guy who's here. He's done some cup races. And also he's won Le Mans a couple times. Why don't we see if he's busy for the next year?
Yeah, he literally they show him walking in. The car was being built by Hendrick Motorsport, which I was like, ugh. I don't want to root for a Hendrick car. Make it a different car, please. Please, no. But he, walks into the Hendrick Motorsport facility to, kind of get things started on the development of the car. And he's just like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but they asked me, and I guess I'll do this because, sure.
Even after the first time he drove it, he got out of the car, and he was like, he had, a laundry list of things. He's like, yeah, so it's going to take a bit, isn't it, to get this up to running 24 hours.
So then they were like, well, now we need a NASCAR guy, because this is the NASCAR thing, which I will say, if you would have pitched this to me, I would have thought that they would have only picked NASCAR people. I am kind of glad that they didn't stick with that, because I don't think the race would have gone very well for them. I appreciate that they were like, okay, we'll do the one NASCAR guy, but we need some real people that know how to drive this car.
Yeah, I almost would have thought it would have been the opposite. It would have been like, let's actually only do people who can run 24 hours. Hey, could we get people in here who've driven on wet tires before?
Right.
You think?
Important.
Or in the dark?
Important, right? Well, they got Jimmy Johnson, because Jimmy Johnson was just like,
hell yeah,
I would really like to do this, please. And they were like, okay, I guess he's represented the brand for a while.
He's a 7-time champion. Yeah. It's like, okay, Jimbo, get in the car.
He literally made it sound like a fucking charity project. We'll talk later, but they treated Jimmy Johnson literally like a Make-A-Wish kid sometimes. They were like, hey, this is really important to him. He wants to drive the car. Go ahead, give him a go. But for him, it was he gets in the car, the first frame that they show him, and he's just looking at the steering wheel, and you can see in his eyes I think he thought he fucked up.
Because it's not, obviously it's not a NASCAR steering wheel. It's more similar to what you would see in endurance racing, though it was still different. But he gets in, and I remember him being like, it's a lot of buttons. And he's playing with the paddle shifters. He's like, yeah, it's a lot of buttons.
They're trying to explain to him how to put it in neutral. He's like, right, no, okay.
Right.
And it's kind of like me when somebody is trying to explain to me the rules of a card game. You can just see he's not retaining any of this information.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I can figure it out how to put it in neutral probably. If not, we'll figure it out. But then they kind of just have these 2 drivers through much of the development, and they show hey, we might have to take it out to a track to try it. And they were like, yeah, that's a good idea. And they're like, man, I wish we had a 3rd driver here. And guess who shows up? Guess who gets out of the car for the track tests? None other than Jenson Button. He got called up by his old boy, and he's like, yeah, I'll check it out. He was just excited.
Apparently he had texted Rocky, Mike Rockenfeller, and was like, hey, you did a couple starts in cup race, how was it? And just a light bulb lit up for Mike, and he's like, actually it was really, really good. Speaking of stock cars, would you be interested? Would you be interested?
They do a lot more effort on his little introductory montage than they did the other drivers, I will say. And they literally were like, this is the hot shot of the documentary. The documentary needs some sex appeal. So they just try to make that Jenson Button, which is really funny. All of the clips they show are just him kissing the camera, getting out of his F1 car, being world champion, like, fuck yeah, I'm Jensen Button. And I was just like, kind of thinking it is funny because I think like to NASCAR people, they're probably like, oh yeah, whatever. It's like they don't like think that highly, I feel like, of F1 world champions as much as they probably would like a Jimmy Johnson or something, but they try to make it seem like Jensen Button is like the star of the show. Who do you feel of the three is the star?
Out of all three of them?
Who's the Beyonce of this Destiny's Child?
I probably would have said Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
If I gotta be honest.
By the end, though, I felt it was Mike. I was like, oh, okay, Mike's a true professional.
They did a really good job of, like, balancing each other, I think. Yeah. I don't think we would have had a Destiny's Child situation. I think it would have been more like... I'm trying to think of a trio that hasn't split up. I can't think of... Like, the Three Musketeers, mayhaps. A fictional duo.
The Powerpuff Girls.
That's true. Yeah, they were like the Powerpuff. Yeah. But I think they did a really good job of, like, personality-wise and also, like, strengths, which you will see later on in the doc. It's, like, some of them lacked and others made up. Yeah, absolutely.
So this is kind of, like, who we're rocking with. And then, like I said, we had Hendrick Motorsports, like, building the car. But they had an interesting thing where the whole team was kind of built by this character who was going to act as the team's crew chief. So they introduce us to this concept of Chad Knaus?
Nos?
We'll just call him Chad, okay? We weren't around in the Jimmy Johnson days. Don't give a shit, okay? He kind of was going to be the crew chief of this team, and he worked with Jimmy Johnson throughout, like, all of his championships and stuff. And he was, like, kind of, like, pitched as, like, he's a very competitive guy, but he's also, like, a good person to lead this team. But I kind of feel like the crew chief is not really, like, a role that you see typically on, like, Le Mans teams. They literally were like, we're going to run this like a NASCAR team. He was, like, seeming to be, like, their strategist, calling all the shots. He was, like, their chief of staff, making all the hiring decisions. He's, like, a strategist, a team principal, fucking, like, chief engineer, everything rolled into one. But that was kind of our dream team running into this. So do we want to talk about the documentary itself, what we saw in the documentary, some of our high points, our favorite points in it?
I really enjoyed watching them all attempt the car for the first time, because there's something in my brain where I'm like, it's like driving a stock car is like, it's probably like driving like a road car. Like, it's not that different. So we saw first, obviously, Mike, because they kind of like formed the Avengers. So we had Mike, and then they were like, we're 6 months out. We still don't. Oh, and then we got Jimmy. And then they're like, we're 6 months out. We still don't have a third driver. And then, like, the heavens parted, angels started to sing. Yeah, Jensen Button shows up. And so each of them had their chance in the car. And obviously Mike gets out of the car and he's very critical of it. He's like, okay. But he's like, every time they were critical, it was still like, I want things to get better, which,
yeah,
hell yeah, brother. But he, like, had a laundry list of things getting out of the car. And then we had Jimmy get out of the car. And he's a little bit more of, like, the Bubbles of the Powerpuff Girls, where he was like, this is, guys, like, it's not there for sure, but, like, we're definitely getting there. And I know if we all work together, we can get there eventually. And then we see Jensen Button, and they took it out. I don't remember what exactly the track was where they took it out. But he was doing, like, a stint of 8 laps. And we got a talking head section from him where he's like, I got in that car and I thought I made a mistake. He was like,
they were like 6 months out at this point, and he was like, that is basically undrivable.
We were past that. He was like, he got in the car, I made a massive mistake. I'm out of my depths here, which I truly, truly appreciated, because I have full confidence in Jensen Button, and I also know how, like, the NASCAR Le Mans story ends. Like, I watched it on the like, I was actually alive in 2023. But just, like, feeling like the doubt coming off of him, I was like, this is a beautiful story that's happening right here. So I really enjoyed watching, like, the difference between the three. What a band of brothers. I wish we would have gotten more. I wish this whole thing was longer, but
Yeah, they also like weirdly developed like such a great teammate dynamic so quickly. Like the first day Jensen shows up, he is like, "Oh, I need a suit to wear." And then Jimmy rolls up. He's like, "Oh, me too. I'm going to change into my suit." And he goes, "Oh, they actually gave me your suit to wear." And he's like in like a little suit with like Johnson's name on the belt.
He like points to it.
And then you have like them being so excited together to like go to France and like do the parade and everything, and they like sign it with like the Ricky Bobby quotes like in like the fans books and stuff like that. But it's really interesting because like I feel like they all kind of bought into the bit a little bit too, considering two of the team members were not American, to be like, no, we're here for fucking America. I was like, thank you so much, Mike Rockefeller and Jensen Button, for stepping up to serve our country.
They were very down for it. The whole parade was so fun to watch because, and I'm sure it was edited a little bit in post. I have media literacy. Like, I understand that. But just, like, hearing a bunch of, like, the French crowds chanting, USA, USA, USA. I was like, okay, guys, I get it. Chills. Thanks for supporting us.
I actually didn't know that much. I've always, like, just, like, watched Le Mans from, like, the moment that the, you know, race starts until it ends. Not any of, like, the hub around it. I didn't know, and I don't know if you knew this, that they do the scrutineering, like, in public, in front of everybody. That's crazy. They're
Middle of town square.
Yeah, they're doing the actual tech review. And I can't remember who it is, but somebody from the NASCAR team goes up and goes, okay, so what are you guys checking in this? Like, basically, like, what can I get away with?
Yeah.
And they're like,
and then,
you're actually already here for scrutineering.
There was another, they were like, is this your first time here? As they're, like, looking at the NASCAR. It's like, yeah, no, this is our first time here. Like,
do you
actually
normally see this?
Yeah, but, and just I think it was Jensen who, maybe it wasn't, they all kind of blend together, who was like, you know, you've got other categories, you've got, like, specific teams that people have, like, allegiances to in each of the categories, and he was like, we're the only ones here, like,
doing this.
Competing. We're essentially competing with ourselves. So he's like, we kind of have everybody's support.
Yeah. That's so beautiful.
There is something about the fact that, like, race cars can, like, bring people together that I was like, oh, that's... I did cry a little bit at that. I was like, this is maybe the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And it's just a NASCAR.
It was so adorable. And, like, they showed, like, all of the fans in, like, the fan section, the parade, the, like, pit lane during the fan area. And they were like, you could see that every single person was stopping at our car to take a picture. And I can't imagine, like, how cool that was for, like, the people that worked on the team. They, like, had, like, all this effort getting the car over to France and, you know, all the development process. And they roll up and it is interesting. They went out of their way to make it look cool, too. Like, the France family did talk about, like, they were like, so one of the number one rules, actually, is that the car has to be sexy.
It has to be sick as hell.
Yeah, we went around and we looked at it and we were like, yeah, it doesn't look sick enough. I think we should take it back to the lab. Because originally it was, like, blacked out with, like, a black American flag. And then, like, I don't know, I think maybe it had, like, a little decal on it. And they were like, fuck no. Red, white, and blue, that motherfucker. Take it back. Make it look way cooler.
It was like the NASCAR on Prime Blue, which just perfectly led into their NASCAR sponsorship, or their Prime sponsorship they didn't know they were going to have 2 years later.
Yeah.
But the car looked sick. What do you want me to do about it? Sorry, we have the best looking car, in Le Mans. Sorry.
We were part of it. We were on the team. They talked about the sound of the car. And I guess, like, you know, I always thought, like, every car is louder than F1, right? Because all those guys at F1, they always say, like, the sound of the cars are so loud.
V10.
But, like, I guess, like,
V10.
I thought, like, oh, okay, so any car other than an F1 car sounds cool. But they were like, no, people fucked with the sound of this car heavy. They were like, that's what won over the crowd. They were like, all these other puny, lame-sounding cars would roll past, and then they were like, this is a fucking American car right here. And I do think, like, do you think that maybe if we keep watching motorsports, we're going to buy into the car has to sound cool crowd?
I fear I definitely have. Like, after going to F1, I was like, these cars, they do sound like nothing. Because even watching, like, F1 and then watching, like, the support series that was there, the the Ferrari Challenge. I was thinking it was Porsche Cup. It was Yeah, Ferrari Challenge. It's like the Ferrari Challenge cars sound cool. I mean, so did the Indy cars. So I do
I've
think
still never heard of NASCAR in person though.
I
Have you?
haven't either. And
Oh my
boy, can I
gosh.
not wait.
It's gonna be so fun. Can't wait. So while we're talking about the things leading up to the race, the part that like made me tear up, the first part that made me tear up, I teared up more than once in this film. This piece of cinema. The first one was the pit stop challenge. So they brought a real fucking Hendrick Motorsports pit crew, from probably like Kyle Larson's pit crew or something like that. And they flew them all the way. And they were going to do their pit stops the way you do a NASCAR pit stop, even though like all the other teams have like a lot less manual labor going into their pit stops. They were like, we're going to use like the real fucking tire jack thing and we're going to run around and do the whole thing. And they were like, so we're going to enter this pit stop challenge. And I guess everybody thought they were going to lose. I don't understand that because you're looking at these men and they're like fucking athletes. So I'm like,
even before they got to the pit stop challenge, they show this scene where we're obviously filming like looking from like the garage angle, and they're outside of the garage. It's like and they're football players. Most of them are like athletes. So just like big guys, big muscular guys, all in like the same like black shorts, gray athletic t-shirts. They've got the slam balls, like the 100-pound slam balls that they're slamming on the ground. They're sprinting together, and they're like, everyone's looking at us funny. It's like they've never seen anybody work out before. And then you look at some of the other pit crews, and it's like most pit crews just do like the IndyCar thing. It's like these are just mechanics who get like a secret second job. And then you've got the Americans, which I was like, this would be cringe if I weren't American, who like come in, they're all wearing matching clothes, they're like big jocks, like doing sprints together. I was like, I would have hated to see that, but seeing it from this point of view is much cooler than I'm sure they felt watching it as people who were American.
They did it up good in the edit to make it look like we were the ones in the right and they were the ones in the wrong.
But I mean, like these knuckleheads.
But it was so weird because they were like, oh my god, like they're never gonna win because they do like the manual jack and like they just like they're so like different than what we do in Europe, and like the car is so much bigger and heavier rather than our nice like cute little cars. Yeah, they're never gonna win. Bro, they fucking stomped on their ass during this pit stop challenge, and the whole crowd was for America at that point as well. But it was so cute because they got to do a podium. They did a podium for the pit stop challenge.
And there was these pictures of them like walking up to the podium, and you've got Jimmy Johnson and Jesse Button out front like dividing the people, being like, move to the side, we've got the pit stop winners coming through, move to the side. And they took their manual jack up onto the podium and like was like, yeah, which once again, watching it from the narrative of the documentary was really like sick, and I got chills. I'm sure being there and seeing a bunch of like American knuckleheads, I might have felt different, but unfortunately that's not how I saw it. So no, hell yeah.
They also show LeBron doing the command in French. I don't know if that's important to you.
That was crazy. We saw that twice, and each time I was like, is that LeBron? What's he doing here? Why is he here?
Why is LeBron James here? But they showed the start of the race, and they had Mike do the start of the race, which honestly, I've been like coming to realize the more starts I watch of Le Mans, whether through the documentary or in real life, how confusing like the whole procedure of it is like, thank God they had Mike Rockefeller who like knew what he was doing, because it's like, they're like, you got to get in line with these cars, please get in line with the right cars. Like you're not in the right group. And he's like fucking freaking out in the car. And I was like, can you imagine if they put Jimmy Johnson in there to start? You were like, which cars, the dorky looking ones up front or the normal looking cars behind? But they start the race, and they expected the first couple hours to go well because like they were, I think, most worried about the reliability problems, and the reliability problems weren't going to be an issue in the first couple hours. Yeah. But they do mention something interesting that other teams weren't doing, which is that every pit stop at the beginning of the race, they were making a driver change, because they were like, if the car dies, we don't want it to be that like there's a driver who didn't get to be in it. And I wonder if that almost like killed their strategy. Not that it ended up mattering that much in the end, but I'm like, guys, we got to strategize to win here. Like nobody else is doing these super long pit stops at the start to change drivers because everybody gets a turn. But then they decided to have Jimmy go in before it started raining. This was like a big moment where they're like, we might have fucked up.
There was a whole conversation where they're like, okay, we want to get Jimmy out there now. It's like dusk turning into nighttime. And it's like, we just want to get him out there for his first night stint. He obviously doesn't drive nighttime, doesn't really drive road courses. So that's going to be different. So we just want to get him out there when it's dry. We don't want to throw two things at him at once. And so they get him in the car and they send him out there and we get like a little bit of Jimmy being like, yeah, no, it was really different. You know, it was dark, whatever. And then you just like, everything kind of gets quiet in the documentary and you just hear, there's rain on like turn 8 or something. They're like, you gotta let him know. You gotta let him know what he's heading into. And so they go, Jimmy, why don't you turn on your rain lights? And so he's like, oh, okay, I'll turn on my rain lights. It's probably a little sprinkle. And then he's like, I turned on my rain lights and a second later it was downpouring. And so this whole time I'm like, and as we're watching like the NASCAR drive through Le Mans, they're also showing us clips of like other things happening in Le Mans as well, like other parts of the race, namely all of these professional drivers who do endurance racing crashing out as soon as it starts to rain. And so he's like, he's like, I'm watching these professional drivers who do this dropping like flies. And he's like, I'm just holding on. And we get like a radio from him going like, I'm slipping everywhere out here. Like I'm going off or whatever. And so I'm just sitting here like, please, Jimmy, just make it to the end. Just make it to the end.
And then they show like inside, you know, like the crew chief strategizer room. And he's like, we made a grave error. And they're like, and they're like,
just like,
do we let him die out there or do we bring him in? And they're like, I think we just leave him to die out there.
And then in Jimmy Johnson fashion, he gets out of the car, comes in, his helmet's off, and he like puts his headset on and he goes, that was crazy. That was fun. He's like, it's crazy to think it's all going to be over in like 18 hours. It's like, he's genuinely, he's a great leader. There was a moment in this where I had a thought where I was like, if my kid was being coached by him on a soccer team, I would feel totally like safe about that. I'd be like, he's a good coach. He's going to teach him morals. We're going to have our head held high, even if we're not winning. It's going to be great. And that's just the attitude he had the whole time.
Yeah, he was like, it was something new, right? As in something that I'd never done. So it was scary. Fine. And I thought I was going to lose it, but I didn't. And here I am to tell the tale. And they're like, wow, Jimmy, I'm glad you are not traumatized by that because we thought you might be. But there was a second big mechanical failure. What was that one?
It was during when Jensen Button was out, and he was hearing, and they played the noise for us, and I would have also identified it as a noise that did not sound good. But transmission blew, like basically the gearbox went kaput. And so he wasn't able to like drive in first. He was like stuck in second gear. And so he's going like 30 miles per hour and all these other cars are going 130 by him because the rule is in Le Mans. I don't know if it's WEC in general. I shouldn't speak to that, but I know for sure in Le Mans, if your car stops and is unable to get back to the pits, you're done. Like it's not like NASCAR. They're not going to give you a tow. They're not going to push you. They're not going to pick you up and drive you over there. It's like, we just have to get you back to the garage. And so he did, going 30 miles per hour, get himself back to the garage. And they had to replace the gearbox. And they even said, they're like, we don't know how long it's going to take. We didn't practice it because we didn't have that issue. Yeah. And so they pull the car in, and the estimated time we get is 90 minutes. And so you're watching them. They've got like 6 guys under the car at once. I don't know what they're doing, but it sounded pretty good. I felt pretty confident about it. And the next person to go out was going to be Rocky. And I remember we watched our crew chief, our captain character go, I'm sorry, Rocky, because it was a shorter amount of time than they thought for him to get back in. And so they were like apologizing for being like, we thought you'd have longer to sit around. I'm sorry, you got to get in the car now. But so, while he was like getting ready to get back in, he gets a call, and they tell us that the call is from Sebastian Vettel. And Sebastian Vettel was on the phone going, I thought you guys were out. And you can hear Rocky say, no, the Americans don't give up. And I was like, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Fucking take that back to your F1 paddock, Sebastian Vettel. Got him. But actually, that brings up an interesting point. We also got to see some of Rocky like throughout the night, like with his like trainer and stuff, like doing like a massage or whatever. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest things, if we ever get the chance to interview a driver or anything that has ever done a 24-hour race or like does them regularly because they're in WEC or, you know, compete in Le Mans or something, I just am so curious, like, what the strategy is about, like, how much you want to get into, like, rest mode before you know you're going to have to go back into drive mode. Like, I feel like they encourage them to, like, sleep and stuff, but I was like, yeah, do you want to be groggy?
There was and this wasn't about the drivers. I do think that's interesting. I would love to hear more about, like, because isn't there, like, a science for, like, how many hours you can sleep before, like, your body has to go into REM and you have to, like,
yeah,
you have to have, like, a full night's sleep, like, not waking up feeling
you could
more tired.
Maybe do like a 20-minute nap, but then at that point it's like you're gonna just wish you could do like 18 20-minute laps and naps and just get like a real nap.
Like a real night's sleep.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, you kind of can't let them relax too much, but anyways.
But there was a point when they were doing their little huddle before the race where the captain, Chad, he was telling everyone, he's like, don't pretend like you're too man or too woman to just take that 15-minute nap. Like, you will feel better after. Just make sure you find a chair. Like, yeah, that's all we ask. And I thought that was interesting because I think my strategy would be don't sleep at all.
Right.
Just keep going.
No, I think so too. Like, but then you're like kind of jittery on caffeine and shit while you get in for your last stint. And you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. I'd be like transcending at that point. I'd be like, my spirit has left.
I will say, as we record this, Le Mans is happening right now, and they are on the night stint. And it is funny because they're getting to silly, goofy hours. They're getting to that time. Like, I saw like a bunch of them taking a pizza break, a bunch of them sleeping with their little mechanic helmets on. I love that point of a 24-hour race where it's like, we're at silly, goofy time, actually. Everybody's a little slap happy. It's 3 a.m. at the sleepover. They're all having a good time. And I think that's fun. But yeah, this was kind of at the point where they were like, okay, we're clearly like not going to finish well in this race, but we're going to finish the fucking race. We replaced the gearbox. We're back out there. We're still on the lead lap. Let's fucking go. And no, they weren't on the lead lap. That was me when I lie. I think that they should have been on the lead lap based on vibes and vibes alone. They should have,
lucky dog?
They should have like been like, actually, guys, we're going to meet the Americans where they are and make that the lead lap. Okay, go ahead. But they decided that they were trying to figure out who was going to do the last stint, which I was like, surely this is something you guys decided before now. But they made it seem like they did not know. And Jensen and Rocky were like, we know who it needs to be. It needs to be Jimmy. And everybody was like, yeah.
It should be Jimmy.
Yeah, it should be Jimmy, shouldn't it? And they all come to him and they go, Jimmy, congratulations. You've been selected to do the last stint. Jimmy goes, oh my God. And he like gets on his knees and cries. No, that's not what happens. But they made it seem like that's what was going to happen. But they did it like, I love them, but they did it in kind of a way of like, he's not going to do good, but it'll mean a lot to him. Yeah. It's like, just let the man do the last lap. They were like, this is his dream. We should let him have it. He'll never win.
Yeah, they were kind of
again.
like, he's never going to do this again. Like, he's never done Le Mans before. Just like, let him finish it. Like, we're coming back here next year. He's got to figure out how to OEP in the Cup Series. Like, let's just let him have it.
I'm so happy they did, because as an audience member of this documentary, it made for the most perfect ending. There's something so beautiful about the ending being like, they didn't win, but they found friendship along the way, and Jimmy Johnson got to live his dream to cross the finish line at Le Mans. LeBron James was there. It was beautiful.
Why was he there? LeBron, what are you doing here?
Yeah. But what were your thoughts on the ending?
I liked it. I almost felt kind of unsatisfied by it, though, because I was like, I know there's so much. The race is 24 hours. I was like, just play me the entire 24-hour race. Like, I want more. Like, I felt like truly it could have been like a whole TV series. but that's not what we got.
Do you fear you would have been the only one tuning in to a whole TV series of that?
No, I think if it was like 3 episodes, for however long the Earnhardt documentary was, I think we could have just matched it.
Right.
But.
Right. I don't know. I think it was like, it was such a good ending, and I did tear up a little bit. But I kind of left this documentary, like, just as, like, final thoughts, you know? I think, like, I couldn't think that this, of anything better to market NASCAR, actually. And, like, I don't know how often people praise NASCAR in their marketing. This was so cool to see, like, a European audience, like, genuinely have respect for this car that crossed the finish line that they didn't even think would make it to, like, the 5th hour mark. I think that as somebody who exists in, like, the F1 content creation space, who tries to convince people to watch things like IndyCar and NASCAR, there's just a general dismissal of, like, American motorsports that can be so frustrating, because it's like, I'm not normally one to be like, hell yeah, USA, baby. But, like, we have our own, like, rich history in motorsports, and we have our own motorsports that are just as respectable and good as F1. Like, I've had somebody one time, I'm not going to say who, but, like, they said to me, like, I don't like watching IndyCar and NASCAR because I like the engineering of F1. And it's like, this documentary did such a beautiful job of, like, showing, like, NASCARs are not actually Toyota Camrys, okay? Like, they are engineered cars. Like, there's, like, people that engineer these cars, or, like, you know, these WEC cars are so amazing they can last 24 hours. It's like, well, they did that too. Like, they showed that, like, they can do that. And, like, even though Jimmy Johnson wasn't, like, you know, the most stellar driver in the whole field, because he had literally never done this before, I think it was, like, he's a great representative of, like, the NASCAR brand, and, like, people really like, there was people in the crowd at Le Mans wearing, like, Jimmy Johnson, like, championship hats. And I don't know, I think that if you don't care about NASCAR, you've never watched NASCAR, I would really, like, this is a documentary I would show people and be like, this is a real fucking sport. The way you talk about WEC, the way you talk about F1, the way you talk about, like, all these European motorsports, the same respect should be shown to American motorsports.
Yeah. I think this was a documentary that shows that, like, NASCAR can play. Like, they can also do all the things that people enjoy about other series. I also kind of think, and I would have to do more looking into this. I'm speaking the thought as I'm having it. But I kind of feel like this NASCAR at Le Mans kind of marks a new era of NASCAR. Because I wasn't a fan of NASCAR before seeing it at Le Mans. Frankly, I don't know if I would have ever given it the chance if I didn't have this kind of introduction to it, just coming from, like, an F1 space and, you know, like, a snobby European motorsport mindset that I have, obviously. But I don't know. I think this is, like, it's a really cool generation of NASCAR that I think is going to come after this. That's different than maybe what we would have seen in, like, the 2010s or anything before it. But I like your point that this is a good documentary to show people who aren't quite sold on, like, maybe the typical American stereotypes of NASCAR, to be like, well, these aren't just cars you buy off the lot and then you go, okay, let's turn left. Because, I mean, in your right mind, how, like, what motorsport series is something you just buy off the lot and then go, okay, yeah, no, that'll be good. Let's put it on our track.
People are so confused by that. Like, they literally think there's no engineering in NASCAR.
Yeah, they're like, it's a spec series, which I think we do have to put spec series to rest. We've allowed the F1 fans to use that
term too liberally.
Like, bless your heart, this ain't a spec series. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But
that's a Hendrick Motorsports vehicle. That's why it ran like that. You think you could put a Rick Ware racing vehicle in there and it would do that? Not a chance.
Genuinely not a chance. I think this is a good introduction. Plus, like, I feel like everyone kind of respects the Garage 56 car. Like, I think everyone's kind of like, but I mean, people talk about the sound of it, the fact that every 4 minutes you would hear just, like, this, like, earth-shattering noise come around the track. No one slept. No one slept.
Nope. Yeah, we fucking wake the fuck up, France. Everybody wake up.
Literally.
No, I saw this. There's this amazing fucking picture of like this giant monstrous NASCAR with all of like the puny little fuck ass cars around it. And somebody left a comment on it, on that picture, that says, America doesn't believe in aerodynamics. We just beat the atmosphere into submission with pure horsepower. Crazy. And I like to think like we left Europe and that's what we left them with. You know what I mean? Like they were like, that's just how American motorsports roll, I guess. I loved it. But yeah, and I also think you do bring up a great point about like a new age of NASCAR. We see this happening, this like a great collab with Le Mans only 2 years ago. This year we have, as we like the weekend that we're on right now is the Mexico City race. And I think that there's a lot of NASCAR fans who are hesitant about like international recognition being even needed for NASCAR. Like they're like, well, why would we care what everybody else thinks about NASCAR? But the fact of the matter is like NASCAR is going to need a new audience because the audience here in the U.S., I'm going to be honest, the audience here in the U.S. half the time acts like they don't even like NASCAR. Like, I mean, like they're like, I'm going to rant about NASCAR. Like those people are nostalgic for a NASCAR that doesn't exist anymore and can't happen anymore. So they got to go out and find a new audience. And I like to think that a good amount of the people that watched that Project 56 live at Le Mans at the track, they probably would be willing to tune in for a Daytona 500 every once in a while.
And I definitely think, like, even outside of, like, an international audience, they're just, like, going for... NASCAR is kind of, like, leaning out of, like, this, like, tradition crutch that they'd always kind of, like, leaned on. Be like, well, this is how we used to do it, and this is what people used to like. And now we've got, like, international races. We've got... They did the race at Le Mans. We've got, like, the Prime broadcast. Like, I think it's a little piece of like a much bigger puzzle that is still happening 2 years later. Like nothing was instantaneous. They didn't like go to Le Mans and they're like, guess what? We're for the kids now. We're for the kids and everyone international. We are a worldwide sport.
We got Jensen Button. We got Jensen Button and now everybody in F1 respects us.
No. But I think things are looking up, guys, for NASCAR. I think maybe people start tuning into Le Mans now. True.
This
was huge for Le Mans.
And, like, I mean, think about, like, a changing audience for NASCAR. Like, we are a representative of, like, a changing audience of NASCAR. Like, we want people from other motorsports to come here. We're girls. And we're from the United States of America. But I feel like we are, like, a younger generation who, like, I don't know about you, I'm having a great time with the Prime broadcast. I love a streaming service. I think it's cool to go to Le Mans. Fuck it. Sue me. I think Le Mans looks beautiful.
Go to Mexico. Hell, race in Canada if you want. Go to Brazil. Get crazy. I'm here for it.
Yeah, but I think that this documentary is definitely something that I would add to my must-watch for
it's very
sports
good.
Fans. It was very good. I cried twice. I don't know if that was even the intention. I just did cry twice. They played like sappy music.
I cried a couple times too. I think I cried when Jensen Button was like, I made a mistake. And I was like, this is going to be so good.
Yeah, because you knew the ending. I actually did not spoil the ending for myself. I obviously did not watch Garage 56. Project 56. Oh my God. Project 91.
Shane?
But, I obviously did not know how it ended, and I refused to look it up. I learned how it ended from the documentary, which was such a beautiful moment. And I was like, LeBron is here. What is LeBron doing here?
Which, he was shown twice. I was like, he is so important that you would show him twice, but they didn't, like, give him, like, a name tag or anything. They were just like, you should know.
You know.
That's probably the part that perplexed me the most.
They also showed Charles Leclerc. Did you see that?
No, but I don't know if I would have recognized him.
Yeah, he wasn't in red. Can throw you off.
I frankly would have just been like, another Frenchman.
I think that this might have been the season that his brother competed in. So I think he went to Le Mans because they had an off weekend for F1. And he went to watch Arthur compete.
He went to watch the Garage
he was like, I heard.
Car. He said, there's a NASCAR here?
He was like, I think I heard Jimmy Johnson's here. Sometime
Oh, I love Jimmy Johnson. Do you think people are going to get pissed off that we keep calling it a NASCAR as if they didn't call it a NASCAR through the entire documentary?
No, that to me, when they dropped the trailer for this, before the fucking documentary even came out, they dropped the trailer and they were saying NASCAR the way we use it in the trailer.
As in, like a noun.
Never felt more fucking justified in my life
as
to
if
continue to
they
say
haven't always done that. I watch the NASCAR Tubi channel. They have always called them a NASCAR. It's just like people on TikTok like to go, just so you know, in the future, it's a stock car. It's like, no. It's not. Sir, it's a NASCAR.
That is a fucking Toyota Camry with painted on headlights, bitch. That's a NASCAR.
That's a NASCAR. We know what flavor of stock car that is. We're going to use its full gov. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You don't just say this is ice cream. You say it's delicious Hudsonville French vanilla in a cake cone. Get specific,
bitch. A cake
bitch.
Cone?
You more of a waffle cone type of gal.
I've never heard of a cake cone.
That's like the cheapy kind.
Oh, a sugar cone? Maybe I just called something different.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
Cake cone. You know what I mean? Like, get specific. That's a NASCAR.
Sorry, we respect the series.
Yeah.
Must be a new fan.
Did you see the Zach Brown jump scare in there as well? I was like, Zach Brown, step away from the NASCAR.
He was there at, like, jump start, like, at the beginning. I was like, of course he's here. Of course he's here.
So this was in replacement of our episode that we would normally upload on Monday. We are unable to upload our episode on Monday because it is an 8 p.m. IndyCar start time on Sunday. And then we were originally going to film on Monday, upload on Tuesday. However, something very exciting came up that I'm sure you guys will hear about. And so we're uploading our actual episode on Wednesday. Hope you understand. With love.
It's all we can... What do you want us to do?
And it'll be fun because we'll get all the penalties out of the way.
Right.
That are bound to happen. But I hope that we convinced you to watch the documentary, or we had a fun recap if you already did watch it. Is that all, MJ?
Bye.